So good morning, everybody, and thanks for the introduction, Stephen. It's been 3 years since I did a tech field day, so thank you for having us back. And the company has changed quite considerably in that time. So I know some of you are aware of XIO and what we've been doing, but the company has recently gone through quite an interesting strategy pivot. I'm responsible for external communications for the company, so AR, PR, and a lot of the strategy stuff, and then we're going to introduce you to some other people on the team, including the CEO, the CTO, and then an interesting character some of you may have come across called Richie Larry, who's probably one of the longest people in the storage industry who will be talking later, particularly around deduplication and going quite a deep dive. So for those of you who don't know us, I'm going to give a 15-minute introduction to what the company's doing right now and the strategy. That's it in terms of, quite frankly, marketing. And we're going to get into a little bit more technology. But we've been around for around 20 years. The company's been around for a long time, formerly known as Xiotech, which some people remembered as, more recently as XIO Technologies. And actually, as a result, it has still a huge amount of equipment out there. There's around 8,000 units of something called the Intelligent Storage Element, or ICE, which a lot of people know the company for, across around 1,500 customers. So there's a good install base and an incredibly loyal install base. We came to market a number of years ago with a product that was really built around consistent performance, as Scott hopefully will testify, and consistent reliability. So we started announcing systems that wouldn't break for 5 years, wouldn't need servicing. Everyone thought we were insane, especially in the hard disk days, but we proved we could do that. And there's some amazing technology behind it. But more than anything, the company's got a good track record of delivering on fantastic engineering. And there's some very, very clever people who are going to be talking later on as well about how they do that and some of the in-depth. But it's maintaining that reputation of excellent quality products that solve common problems that are out there in the storage industry. So a lot of people, as I said, know us for the ICE. The ICE for many years was getting the most out of hard disks. So it was a spin-off of a Seagate product, which then became really known for consistent performance and consistent reliability in hard disks. A few years ago, that was added to make what was called the 700 series, which was a hybrid version. And that had some unique technologies, particularly around data movement between the solid state and the hard drives. And we become known for, probably one of the cleverest hybrid systems that was out there. And then actually, as the market moved towards all-flash, we brought out an all-flash array, and again, got ourselves known because we went and blasted the SPC1 price performance record. So we came out with a box that played in the all-flash marketplace but was differentiated. But the ICE was always focused on consistent performance and not so much features. There's a lot of belief that you shouldn't run the features in the storage array because they will have a dramatic effect on performance. Some people do want features in the storage array, async, wrap, and snapshots and things. So we actually put to market a couple of years ago a product called Igloo. Igloo takes the ICE and turns it to add functionality. Igloos are made out of ice. Get it? Okay. There was a play on words here that was delivering it. But that was the portfolio in 2016. And we are changing it, as I said. There's been a lot of new innovation. There are a lot of customers, as I said, that like the ICE. It's delivered. So there is a very loyal install base. So as we looked at where we go from a strategy point of view and what do we do going forward, the worst thing we could do is turn our back on the ICE customers. Because these guys have bought into the performance, the reliability, the affordability, and the simplicity of the whole product line. And the worst thing we could do as we move forward and look at what new products and what challenges we can solve is turn our back on ICE customers. So you'll see where we're going. But the market is changing. There are a number of people playing in the general purpose and all-flash marketplace who are suffering right now. If you look at the figures of pretty much any storage vendor on the hardware side of things right now, you see common charts such as this. Some of you may have worked out who this is. I deliberately took their name off and took some of the scales off so you can't work it out immediately. But how often do you see vendors doing this? They're growing their revenues, their losses are getting worse. And this is happening consistently across the storage marketplace. And something similar was happening in XIO. And the phrase that Bill Miller, our CEO, came up with, was the madness had to stop. And paying ridiculous amounts of money to attract new customers in the general purpose all-flash marketplace is like going to hell in a handbasket. It's just really, really hard out there. So there was a lot of work done to say, how can we stop this? How can we change things? And how can we make ourselves into a positive situation? How can we stop just losing money every quarter on spending outrageous amounts of money on marketing, which is what you have to do to get yourself heard these days? And how do we get to restructure ourselves and come out with a product that is not only differentiated, but we can afford to make sure we keep the right people on board, that engineering talent, and actually, let's be frank, make some money, which is nice. So, the company was really known for mid-range enterprise storage systems. We had some really funky IP, both in the hardware and the software. As I said, we got some excellent talent. But the problem with custom hardware is that it makes your supply chain really difficult. It makes innovation a little bit slower, and it does scare some people. You know, a lot of people would come in and talk to us and go, I really like your product. I'm a bit worried about proprietary things. The data pack concept, which some of you may be aware of, where we sealed in hard disks to stop them going wrong, had an adverse effect. And particularly in the all-flash marketplace, when you don't have some of the physical challenges that you have with hard disks, our technology become less relevant. So therefore, it was a compromise to have custom hardware. And it, as I said, it's struggling in a ridiculously competitive market. You look at some of the marketing money that people like Pure go out and spend, it's obscene amounts of money just to attract new customers. So, you know, what could we do different there? So we pivoted. And I use the word pivot rather than switch because we just turned it slightly. So we continued to generate and develop the ICE hardware. So a lot of people, when we announced what we were doing, were like, wow, they're moving away from ICE. Couldn't be further from the truth, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the main thing was actually solving a challenge in a market we refer to as edge computing. Now, in a later presentation, Bill Miller, our CEO, is going to talk about what do we mean by edge computing and what is that. So I'm not going to steal his thunder, but how can we develop a converged server and storage product? So we've been known as a storage monkeys for a long time. We're now hoping to be known better as server and storage monkeys. Because we've developed an NVMe-based product that is hugely differentiated, and Gus, our CTO, will be talking about that. But also at the same time, you know, leveraging the original ICE software to develop new products. So as you probably have gathered, you know, the next generation of ICE, which we're calling the ICE 4, will be about separating the software from the hardware. So how can we leverage commodity hardware to actually build differentiated storage systems? And there'll be other things that we'll hint at on that. So quite a big strategy pivot, and we'll go into the actual products that we're launching behind it. The first one of those that will be announced end of July, beginning of August, that's coming is the next generation of ICE. Everyone knows the ICE as the sealed data pack boxes that were incredibly reliable. The footprint does look quite different on the ICE 4. As I said, we're leveraging standardized open hardware. Data packs are open. We're going to have hot pluggable drives. No one ever thought you'd see XIO doing this. But using standard systems hardware because we've separated the software from the hardware. That also means we can actually have a software version of ICE. So we'll talk about our routes to market in a minute, or routes for Alex. And in particular, you'll see that we now have the ability to go out and deliver both the software and the hardware separately. But this will have native data services. So whereas the ICE was all about consistent performance and reliability and not so much about services, we will have a lot of services inside the ICE, including an extremely differentiated deduplication technique, which Richie will be doing a deep dive on later.
Does that mean Igloo is no longer, or?
No, Igloo will still be around, and I'll explain how Igloo fits in. So Igloo will still add more layers than the ICE will. We're just going to put more stuff in the ICE, and probably a little bit less in Igloo. But Igloo doesn't have deduplication, for example, Ray. So that will supplement it. Edge computing. I'm not going to steal the thunder of the guys that are talking later, and I'm sure some of you want to deep dive into some of these specs because they are pretty differentiated specs, and it moves us into a different market. The key point I want to get across here is that Excelio is a very new product for XIO. It's been in development for about 3 years now. So we've been working on this behind the scenes. Some of you may have even been briefed on it at some points because I've been talking quietly about it for about a year. The difference here is this is a solution-based sale. This is not something we're going to walk in to customers and expect them to buy an Excelio. We are working with a number of solution providers and systems integrators to take Excelio and do things with it. So you will see lots of products appearing, not necessarily labeled by XIO, in markets such as defense intelligence, particularly in cybersecurity, but anywhere that has a lot of common challenges, and Bill will be talking about some of those common challenges that we actually go out and solve. But this is a niche technology, or niche for the Brits amongst us, where we appreciate that. There have been companies that have come to market with an NVMe-based product that it was too niche for them, and therefore they killed it. For us, it's very different. We're a small company, so we can go and play in these markets, and we know we can make a difference here. So we're going to talk in quite a bit of depth about Excellion and what it is, and Gus is going to do a deep dive. So I said that routes to market are changing.
I'm sorry, did you say 1 petabyte of NVMe storage?
Yeah.
I was waiting for that one to.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand what that means.
In 2U, yeah.
In 2U,
Yeah.
with deduplication and compression and all that
Well, we'll talk about that later on. Gus is backing away from me, but yeah. So one thing I will point out, the initial version right now, we're launching right now, is around 500 terabytes. But we have some new drives coming by the end of the year that will take us to a petabyte physically within the box.
What's the front end of it? How's it? Is it HCI? Obviously, it's hybrid version.
We'll get into it. It's a converged platform. It's not a hyper-converged platform until you add the software. So we're working with a number of systems integrated to make it a HCI platform. But it can be a HCI platform when you add layers on top of it. Right now, it's a piece of tin that we work with a number of people to turn it into a solution. And we'll explain that when we get into it in a little bit more. Because that's what I said. It'd be really easy to go to this slide and rat hole on this slide, and we could be here for a long time. But I promised them I'd do 15 minutes of marketing and then get off.
And it's 30 gigabytes per second per appliance?
Yeah.
Kind of numbers?
Yeah.
You don't have any IOP numbers there or anything
We
like
will do in a minute. What are we running, 12? Look at me, Gus.
12 IOPS per second?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Ray.
It's not released
Big
yet,
enough.
Ray. You got to wait.
There's a million number in there somewhere.
Fine tuning still to be done.
So we'll go into the technology.
Yeah.
The delivery
Sorry,
going
I
into it.
just,
So I'll let the guys invent
you
it.
went through it kind of fast. I was just trying
It's
to.
an extremely fast box, which is why it's specialized. We're not expecting someone to take this, and run it as a standard general purpose storage box. That's not what it's for. So the one thing I just want to make clear is, as I said earlier, spending money on attracting new customers for general purpose flash market is hard, expensive, and quite frankly, a fool's errand. Which is why you're seeing some of those charts, like you saw that one earlier, of revenues go up, but your losses go up at the same time. So what we're doing is focusing the new G4 systems on existing customers and channel partners. We have no intention of walking away from our existing customer base. They're very loyal, they're great people, so we will continue to develop the product, support the old systems, and develop new systems. So the G4 combined systems will continue to be sold to existing customers along with the Igloo product line. But we are talking to a number of storage system OEMs about taking the ICE software and adding it to commodity hardware. So I can't go into, obviously, a number of things we're talking to, but there are a lot of good conversations going on because people want to solve a problem.
So what I see on this chart is you don't want to abandon your former customers, which is good.
Yep.
But if you didn't have them, this is going to be purely a channel play, and and you're not going to be selling directly into the enterprise at all.
Correct. We have no plan in hiring some very expensive sales guys with crazy expense budgets to go out there and try to sell into an extremely competitive marketplace.
Got it.
This is a much more efficient way to go to market, which keeps our head above the water and stops silly charts like you saw before. We have no desire to go down that road again. We learned our lesson.
So going by that, I guess, when you talked about doing a software-only solution earlier, is it thought to actually do a software-only solution straight to the end user, or is it through OEM?
The G4 code will be made available to OEMs. We have no plan to say to customers, here, go and buy a Supermicro and some commodity stuff off eBay and build your own box.
Okay.
We still want to work with people to take advantage and leverage commodity hardware, but obviously we want to make sure the quality's there as well.